that I'm actually going to reveal to you through this session. And what I'm hoping that comes out of it is that you start to think about what mentorship means to you and open your mind to some of the things that I'm going to say today. So I'm going to share my screen. I like to be prompted, but please, as I go, you can talk to me through the chat. I'm not going to person the chat, but I will revisit it afterwards and take your questions. And I know for me, when I present, that I would much rather be able to speak while I'm thinking about it. So please feel free to do that. But if it's cool with you guys, there's a part that kind of revs up and I want to be able to do that. So as I'm speaking, if you have any questions, write it in the chat or a comment that we can go back to. But if something's really pertinent and you just can't continue, I'll try my best. If somebody could advocate for that person, that would be fantastic. Hold on, I just want to stop sharing for 1 second because I need my notes. So we'll do that. Take 2. I'm going to screen share this. Great. And for some reason, this went into my school stuff. So I want to come out of that. I'm just talking to myself joyfully. I'll do it here. I like to have notes even though I speak off of my notes because it just helps me. So the goal of today is to talk about building a mentorship mindset. And my goals for you is to think through why mentorship is important. And as I'm talking, I want you to think about your examples. You can ignore the furnace sound that just started in the background. This is where I teach from, the very funny world of virtual school. I want to talk about how mentorship can help you in your life and career. And some of the key lessons that I'm hoping you'll get from this conversation is that you should know yourself, that there is value in not just developing questions, but having questions that are not just focused on answers, but are focused on inquiry, and how to find your people. So I'm just going to start by saying that mentorship is something that changed my life. And so often we have the term mentor, but it can actually mean a lot of different things. And that lack of shared understanding can put us into different directions in exploring mentorship. Now, I don't know anything about you guys, how you came to education, or what your goal is that you want to achieve besides a degree. But I really want to speak to you about why mentorship should accompany you on every step of this journey. I have learned so much in my 24 years of teaching, and I've had formal and informal mentors. And through that entire process, I've learned that actually nothing has had the impact on me that mentorship has had. And that's because I'm an interpersonal learner. So I can read something incredible or I can do something incredible, but unless I can unpack it with a person who can add value, who listens to me, who builds on my ideas, I can't actually retain that information in the same way. And I want to begin with that first lesson that kind of, as I look back, I gained from my mentorship experiences, and that was to know myself. And that the more I knew myself, the more I could actually gain through mentorship. So 24 years ago, I started teaching, and my first mentor was actually the CERT in my classroom. She was there a lot because we were on Rotary, and so I had her in my room, and she would, she and I were really different. I was living the single life at Yonge and Eglinton in Toronto. I drank a lot of Diet Coke, and I sat on my table in my classroom, and she did not. She really liked penmanship. She really liked an orderly desk, and we couldn't be more different. I kept looking at her as somebody who should be hanging out with my parents and not somebody that I really believed could teach me anything. But you want to keep your mind open to the ideas beyond the person. Elaine was transformational for me. She was there to teach me not just how to serve my learners in my class, but really how to teach. And over time, she grew more understanding of my unique style, and I grew more understanding that actually she was full of great ideas. It's just that I didn't always agree with how she delivered them. But she really taught me so much. And instead of feeling threatened or feeling vulnerable when she was in the room, I was actually able to keep my mind open to those ideas beyond the person. And through her work supporting my identified students, I actually learned a lot about how to teach, period. One of those things that I learned was that the measure of a good teacher is actually evidenced through the learning. It didn't matter how dynamic I was. It didn't matter how exciting my lessons were, because if my students weren't learning it, I wasn't really doing it effectively. And she actually helped me develop a UDL lens before Universal Design for Learning even existed. And it was kind of profound when I realized that essentially every student has an IEP. It's just that it's your job to figure out what it is, how they learn best, how to move them forward on their learning continuum. And the more I got past our differences, the more I was able to really see that Elaine and I had so much in common. We were deeply committed to teaching, and we both believed that it was evidence that showed us if we were being effective educators. She became like such an important advisor and friend. She was at my wedding. She was at my first book launch. She was there when all three of my daughters were born. And mentorship is really about fostering people from wherever they're at. It's not about saying, well, this is what I do, so this is what you have to do. It's truly about seeing where a person is on their learning continuum and starting with them. And that's a lot about teaching too. Teaching is about understanding where your learners begin and moving them on their continuum. Now, Elaine continues to this day to correct my grammar, and she's actually really into giving me feedback when we meet for coffee a few times a year, but ultimately she made me better. She made me a better teacher. She pulled a mirror up to myself, not in judgment, but for reflection. And what I learned through this time with her is that mentorship isn't about sameness. It's about shared values, and it's really improved by a better sense of self. So you want to be asking yourself questions. You want to really know who you are, what you're passionate about. You want to know what motivates you, and you really want to understand what your strengths are. You guys are in a time where people are going to be giving you feedback. You're going to be growing all the time. You're learning by observing and pulling up that front row seat, and then you're going to be doing. And knowing who you are in that process will ground you. It will also help you take feedback as feedback and not criticism. And it will also help you pull from your strengths to build in the parts of you that are not yet as strong or need more practice. So that was a really powerful part. And the more time you spend getting to know yourself, the more value you'll get from your mentorship experiences. So turn self-ward. That was a big thing that I learned about through my time with Elaine. And then after 14 years of teaching at the same school, I had this very odd and interesting opportunity. I was actually found to be brought into this IB school. And I was so excited for the opportunity to learn like this. I was so excited to try something different. I was so excited at inquiry-based learning and really understanding the thinking behind the International Baccalaureate. But understanding depth over breadth was not as hard as dealing with the teachers who I had to work with. And two of the teachers that I was working with had heard about me. And whatever that meant, I kind of, I guess, had a reputation as being a hard worker, a change agent. They weren't kind to me. And they were so set on making my life yucky in my new school that I would actually have called it bullying. And through that time, I was offered the opportunity for a curriculum coach. And that's how I learned lesson 2. Lesson 2 is questions are more important than answers. My head of school wasn't actually going to let me work with Ricky. She was working with the new teachers, and I'd been teaching for 14 years. And he said, well, you're too seasoned a professional. But I argued that the new context and my need to learn would really benefit from time with Ricky, and it would only enhance my ability to do good work at this school. So he acquiesced, and he let me meet with her, and it was unbelievable. Every single week for half an hour for the next 3 years, I got to meet with this woman who was totally understated and a little bit sarcastic and really, really, really smart. And instead of telling me what to do, she would ask me questions. And at the beginning, it drove me crazy. I was like, just tell me the answer. I have so much to learn. Please just tell me the answer. And she would say things like, well, have you seen this TED Talk? Or have you read this article? And the more open I was to the question part, the more open I was to that inquiry piece, the more I really learned that she was blowing my mind on a regular basis. And I opened myself to the idea of the power of questions. So she would talk me through what was happening to me with these other two teachers. And instead of saying they're this or do that, she would say, well, why do you think they're doing that? And how does it make you feel? And it wasn't just the therapy part of it. It was getting me to think outside my own box that I was creating for myself out of fear. And what was so interesting about that is it helped me rise above the situation. And not only did those women become my friends later, because, you know, I tried killing them with kindness and that did not work. But eventually they saw that I really cared about teaching, that I wasn't there to grandstand and I wasn't there to change them. I was there to do good work. And it was through Ricky asking me questions, peppering me sometimes, that I started to understand that. I deeply understood that when people are doing things, you can reframe it by asking yourself different questions. And she helped me persevere. But one of the other things she did is not hug me through my tears and give me a place for it all to be okay. She challenged me with all these questions that she would ask me. But, you know, as James Comer said, no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. And she built her relationship with me on questions, not on answers. And it's an interesting thing to think about in the classroom in terms of building relationships with students, building relationships with colleagues. You guys will be in buildings, thinking about how every relationship, every interaction is a moment of possibility where you can ask questions or find new questions to ask. Mentorship is really about relationships, and my relationship with Ricky continues to be wonderful. I continue to see her and she's really changed my practice. But one of the things she did, and one of the reasons why I'm here today, is because she would ask me about my golden circle. She wouldn't just ask why, but she would go deeper and ask how and what, and all of those aspects of the Simon Sinek idea of looking through things really critically and making choices. So she would ask me that about my lesson plans or about practice that I had in the classroom. And the truth is, as teachers, we often don't have people coming in our room to say, hey, what's up with that? Tell me more about that. And it was amazing. So crazy thing happened to me. I was about to have my third daughter. I'm pregnant. I'd been teaching for a few years, grade 3 and 4 when I first came to that school. And I loved middle school. And so my principal's like, well, you wanted to go back to middle school, no problem. You're going to teach grade 7 and 8 science right before you have your child. So for September, October, and November, I was going to be teaching grade 7 and 8 science. And I don't know if you got this idea about me yet, but I had the reality in front of me that I was not going to be good at this. Like, I like to be good at my job and I work really, really hard, and teaching is challenging but rewarding. But seeing this space freaked me out. And I not only thought that I wasn't going to be successful and had no sense of efficacy, I was like, there's an eye wash station. Where is the ambulance? I'm going to be sued. I was so nervous. And I spent the whole summer really upset. And one of the things that I had always been doing my entire teaching career and didn't know I was doing it because nobody had ever asked me about it was I created these projects. So for this grade 7 and 8 classes, I created a Did You Know? It was just a simple idea of asking students to go on an inquiry related to each unit. So if I was doing pure substances and mixtures, students could inquire about a pure substance and mixture and present it in whatever way they wanted on their selected date. And the same thing in my fluids unit in grade 8. And what was happening was that kids were finding their way into science and they were excited about it. And Ricky walked by my classroom and she's like, why are your kids learning? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm not a very good teacher. And she's like, no, like legitimately, they're learning. And I said, oh, well, they're not really learning from me. They're learning from themselves through these projects. And she said, what are these projects? And I said, I don't know. Explain that I called them Did You Knows because that's what came to my mind because I like to name things, but I don't know. And then she kept seeing that I was doing these things to get students owning their work and going on an inquiry. And I told her, you know, well, I gave them the definition of fluids or mixed pure substances and mixtures, and then they graffiti boarded what they wanted to inquire about, and then they chose a presentation day, and for no more than like 5 minutes of class, they presented on what they were doing. And I had students in grade 7 who presented on, you know, baked goods, because we could eat in those days. They would bring in samples. It was kind of fun. Or they talked about their favorite perfume or hand sanitizer or something that really compelled them in their lives that they always wanted to know about. And it was the same with fluids. And kids were excited, and their inquiry and their graffiti boards were the decorations in my classroom. And then Ricky said to me, no, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know, I'm building outside the blocks. And I had no idea what that meant. So every single week for the next month, she would be like, tell me more about that. Why is that? And it turned out that I had actually developed an entire teaching approach that I would have had no idea had I not had the privilege to have this mentor ask me these questions. And she asked me more questions. And it turned out that every one of my projects had the same thing. It built skill, autonomy, and community and connection, not just to my students, but them to each other and themselves. And that was amazing. And so she said, well, why don't you write about it? I was like, I don't write, but I had been blogging for my school. And she helped me see that I could communicate. And so I had my very first article published 5 years ago because she asked me about it. And it turned out I had something that I didn't know. So obviously, I call my work Building Outside the Blocks. And it's the company that I have on the side where I help schools and I help teachers create projects that bring the whole learner into the equation. And at all the schools that I've been at, I have not only used my BOBs, which I have at least 5 or 6 that I use every year in a class, depending on the grade, but I present them all over the world and I share my projects for free because they're really impactful. But in that time, I was like, how am I ever going to pay Ricky back for everything that I've learned? And that's where I really started to think about it. It wasn't just that she taught me how to ask questions. She taught me how to ask questions not in order to get the answer, but to understand why this answer, why right now. A few weeks ago, I had the privilege of having Jim Strachan on, who helped to create the NTIP program, the new teacher integration program that you guys will experience when you become a teacher in Ontario. And he said, you want to go from the question, do you have a mentor, to are you being mentored? And so it's not just the question, but how you use the question, and when you use the question, that becomes so significant in any kind of mentorship experience. So I was actually getting to have a mentorship mindset and really thinking about how people can impact me in new ways and to whom I can ask these questions. So that's where I came to my third and final big idea that I want to share with you guys today. And that is, mentors are everywhere. Even if you're not able to be in a practicum experience right now, you can be mentored by so many different people. And the more you develop your mentorship mindset, I find it a moment of gratitude, where there are so many different people that I learn from every single day, but I gather them mindfully. And that's been a huge game changer for me. So I want to learn more about digital citizenship. I have a crew that I go to. If I'm like trying to learn some new ed tech tools, which being a virtual teacher has been a profound learning curve, I have people to go to, because yes, there's a bevy of information out there, but I know myself and I know that I learn the best by talking to people. So I might be able to watch a play-by-play of how to use something in Google Classroom, but I really understand it when I have 5 minutes of conversation with somebody who I value as a mentor. Or I sit with them every half an hour every week, like my ELL mentor, because I'm teaching English language learners this year for the first time, and I found a mentor for that. So I have mentors for everything that I can possibly imagine. And through all of my work, I do a lot of things mentorship. Let me tell you a little bit about that. The first time that I was going through NTIP, because I only came to the board 3 years ago and had spent all of my life in independent private schools, I was really profoundly moved and upset by the image on the top left. That's what mentorship was. And they were showing me this image because you want a mentor who knows things. And you definitely do. You don't want to go to somebody to ask them questions that don't help you move forward. But mentorship also can be a two-way street. And the value of what you bring to a mentorship relationship should be highlighted. there should be a reciprocity. So the more I was thinking about that, I really started to decide how I was going to pay Ricky back and all the amazing mentors in my life. Then last year, when I saw this article coming out of this great book, We Got This by Cornelius Minor, sorry, not an article, in a chapter from this book, he was saying that to choose out the first years of my profession as a new teacher ignores and silences all the parts of me that are not new to children, to youth culture, or to literacy. Similarly, to describe to the falsehood that my years in the system make me a veteran ignores all the parts of me that still need mentoring and coaching and new insights and feedback and love. And I kept thinking about how if we created a system of mentorship where there was a two-way street, then we would be able to always learn. I mean, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing as educators, being lifelong learners? In the NTIP document, it says mentoring provides a wide range of benefits, not only to new teachers, but also to the more experienced teachers who mentor them. Mentorship has value for everybody, and not just in formal situations, in informal ones too. And then I realized we all have something to teach, and we all have something to learn. And that became the tagline for what is the Mentoree. In the last 2 years, it started out as a collaborative inquiry into the impact of one-to-one mentorship, but it evolved to become a community, and something I'm so proud to stand here introducing to all of you for the first time. So at first we thought if we cultivated reciprocal, non-hierarchical, self-directed mentorship experiences between educational professionals, then it could improve professional learning, it could make teachers feel better, and teachers would actually feel like they're more capable. And efficacy has been proven to be a key factor in student learning. So if all of this happened, ultimately, we could improve student learning. Now, we couldn't measure student learning. We didn't have access to that, but we could certainly measure what mentors coming into our space could experience in terms of professional learning, well-being, and efficacy. And then we decided to own the definition, because it always needs another acronym, right? But in a deliberation that was actually a lot more process-oriented, we came up with motivating, enabling, nurturing, timely, open, and responsive. And if you really think about that, that's the success criteria of an effective mentorship relationship. Whether you're with an associate teacher, or you're learning from somebody in your classroom, or you're learning from an article or from a video, it should motivate you. It should make you feel like you can do things. It should make you feel okay. And not every mentorship situation does that, but ultimately when you feel a sense of efficacy, that is self-nurturing. It should be timely in that, you know, we need information in real time. We need to have people that we can turn to, and sometimes waiting until like 3 weeks from now when I'm back in the classroom with that associate teacher, that might not be the most helpful in that moment. It should certainly be open to who you are and what you can add to it, and also open to other possibilities. At a really weird situation when I was in the Faculty of Education, I spoke about it on the show that Tracy was actually recently on, and I hadn't spoken about it in a really long time. I was in my second placement in primary with grade ones, and the teacher was doing a community unit, because we did units like that back then. And in the community unit, she said, no policeman, fireman. And I asked her if it was okay when I did my lesson if I used the terms police officer and firefighter. And that upset her so much that she didn't want me back in her room. And she told my host school that she didn't want me there, and they couldn't find a placement for me. So I really had a bad time, and I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be there, and I wasn't sure, but I always wanted to be a teacher, and I loved teaching. And it was because of the faculty advisors that I worked with that they slowly invited me back. And not only did I graduate, but I have a master's degree, and teaching continues to be my hobby and my passion, because they didn't let me go. Those timely, open, and responsive experiences were really beautiful mentorship. So hopefully around now, 2 of the leadership team members are going to be popping into this. I don't know if you guys are here now, Terry and Christine. Okay, if you guys are here, or when you come here, please let me know. Tracy, if you could just check if they're in the waiting room, that would be wonderful. we had the most incredible session at the beginning of last summer, looking at what our core values were. And we took the 3 C's from Mentoring Matters and thought, okay, they're awesome. The idea of mentorship is that you should be able to move flawlessly between consultant, collaborator, and coach. And we kept ruminating on those ideas and added in what turned out to be, if you like alliteration, it works really well, more C's, and added caring, choice, collective efficacy, and community, but always grounding ourselves in connection. Connection to ourselves, connection to each other, connection into the mentoree community, and connection to the education community at large. And that is where we got to the Mentoree, being a collaborative community that promotes professional learning, well-being, and efficacy through various forms of supportive mentorship. And I'll tell you what we have. I'm going to go through all of them, but the Online Mentors podcast, MPACT, one-to-one mentorship, motivators, and conversations to build capacity. So you think of your questions that you'll have. I'm just going to talk a little bit about this. So I said that Tracy came on my show last week. I have a weekly live podcast called On Ed Mentors, and I invite a new panel every single week to mentor me, actually, and the listeners. We have a very good live audience and also people who listen to the archived episodes. If you want to listen to a podcast about education, I have so many amazing educators who come on the show and talk about everything. So if you go onto the Voice Ed site, you'll be able to find our page. And every single Thursday we are live. I can talk to you guys about support that I would love to have from Faculty of Ed students, but I would also love to build a show around what you need this year. So we can talk later about that. This is one of my babies. It is the longest running live show on Voice Ed Radio, which is 4 years old as of this February, and I've been on from the beginning. I was there as a panelist and I took over the show 2 years ago. I've only been podcasting for 3+ years. I have my own podcast on Mondays, but On Ed Mentors is a great way for us to take what we're learning from people, from education, and be responsive to it, and go and check our core values and make sure that we're doing what we need to do to help fill gaps for people. But we still have one-to-one mentorship. And as of this second, we have 63 mentors in our community. I'm going to show you the website and everything for just a moment. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to share. Oh, I just had to go out of presentation mode. Hold on. I'm going to go and share this screen with you to talk a little bit. Oops, hold on. To talk a little bit about how you can search the community. So if you go on to thementoree.com and you join as a mentee, you can look up people by their names. You can look up people by where they are, their skills and expertise, and whether or not they're connected. Once they're connected, sometimes they're connected for no shelf life at all, and sometimes they're connected for only a little bit. So sometimes you'll see people freeing up, but this will give you a really good sense of who's in our community and what kinds of resources are available to you, because anybody can become a mentee and anybody can become a mentor once they're a certified teacher. My favorite part about our community right now is that a lot of the people who came in as mentees have become mentors, and a lot of our mentors have become mentees. Oh, I see that Terry is coming. So I'm so happy. Terry, are you here? Okay, maybe she's just on the document, so hopefully she'll be in a second. But I'm going to continue talking a little bit about it. So the one-to-one mentorship idea is that we give you a toolkit as a mentee to help you ask questions of yourself and of your mentor, to help you set up the mentorship relationship, because that's the shipping part, and to help support you in whatever it is that you need. Sometimes you have the most amazing experiences and you don't need a mentor until you need a mentor. And as I'll say at the end, it's good to have one ready before you need it. Oh, I'm not sure. Oh, it went to the link. Sorry, 1 second. So now, oh, it did it. Okay. Conversations to build capacity. This was the craziest, coolest thing. One of the many amazing things that I've been able to do with a team of people is when we were in quarantine, we thought people need to tool up. Workshops on building community and using digital tools. But the more we were doing it, the more we started to see just the value of conversation itself. So we called it Conversations to Build Capacity. And under Conversations to Build Capacity, which are really conversations for learning, we have responsive presentations, which are a lot like what a webinar would be, in that you have a slide deck and you present it. But the key to it is that what people want and how they direct the conversation can actually impact what gets delivered. So the mentor might prepare 20 slides, but the group actually wants to focus on slide 10 and they go off on a tangent. All of that's okay because there's no syllabus. The responsive presentation literally is something prepared to respond to the needs of the community. A circle conversation is one of these things that is so hard for people to understand unless they experience it. But I'll share it with you because I'm hoping to create some of these just for you. And Tracy and I will talk again about it another time. The circle conversation is about showing up to a place that's facilitated by a mentor. There are no slides. We use Jamboard to share ideas and we talk to each other. And at the end of the hour, the craziest thing is not only have we been able to build community and learn from each other, but we really get to see what it feels like to be at the table of conversation and to have our voice matter. So it's a cameras on, voice on, all access experience that you can't surmise by sending somebody a slide deck because it's so much more than that. Sorry for a second. I've been talking all day. Okay. Rashmi Karnajani, who has led our anti-racist circle conversations, she's done 4 already, said it was like becoming a better me from one conversation to another. Every person that's been in these circle conversations has shared some level of impact. We're doing a math one this week, it's closed, but we're actually doing responsive presentation on safety and learning, which of course you're welcome to come to. Registration is free. MPACT. MPACT was one of those amazing things that evolved from our understanding of professional learning and what works best for people. So essentially, you select your MPACT and it goes through a collaborative experience like a responsive presentation, but then you get time to go back to class, reflect on what you learned, and then bring that back to the session. Your mentor will know what your needs are before you get there, and then evolve what you do as a group based on that shared need. And as you have those opportunities to go back, almost like a reverse W, you're able to bring back to the group what your challenges are in implementing whatever that is. So for example, with math, and Jordan, who is our lead math mentor, he can take the challenges that you have as a group, not the challenges he pre-prepared or predetermined, and be able to respond to those needs even before you get back to the group. But then the community's built around all of those needs and all of that work. And we've gone through our first one and it's pretty exciting. We are under construction building a speakers bureau called MOTIVATORS. Sometimes people need speakers for classes. Sometimes they need them for small groups, for staff meetings. And we want to be able to build capacity of our mentors by giving them opportunities to speak. None of those cost money, except for there are a few motivators who might, but we can talk about that another day. I'm really, really hoping that Terry or Christine are here. But if they're not, I can speak to pretty much every slide actually, but Terry or Christine.
Noa, they are here and they've been posting in the group chat, but there they are now.
Christine. Wonderful. Christine, this is Christine Chin.
Hi everyone.
This is the perfect slide to be on. What were you going to say?
I was saying I'm at school on my prep.
Amazing. And it's so nice that you're able to be here. I was just at the slide where I was talking about connection. So it'd be so awesome if you talked about how you came to the Mentoree and some of the connections that you've been able to make.
Absolutely. So I'm so excited to be able to do this and talk to all of you. I'm a U Ottawa alum. Also, Tracy Crow was actually my professor also when I was there. So I think that the biggest thing and the biggest reason why I think I'm at the Mentoree is because I really want to be that teacher that I needed when I first started teaching. So when I first started teaching, you know, I went through NTIP, I did the whole thing, and I had one of those situations where I was given a group of mentors. But you know, it's one thing when you are given a group of people, but it's a whole other thing when you get to choose the person that you want to have a relationship with. And it's not that I didn't get along with people, and it's not that, you know, I wasn't grateful for the people who were, you know, who were provided to me, but there's something to be said for, you know, having that autonomy and having the independence of being able to make those decisions for yourself. I also think that there's something to be said for having a relationship with someone where you can text them in the middle of the day and say, oh my God, that lesson I just did was so bad and it didn't go well, without having to worry that that person is going to tell your principal that, you know, oh, it didn't go well, or, you know, whatever it may be. So I think that sometimes when you're given that NTIP mentor, it can be really great oftentimes. However, what we're talking about at the Mentoree, I always find has been to be even more impactful, because it's your choice. You do it on your time, and you can explore the things that you want to explore without being told that you have to do this, 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 and this. So there's a lot of freedom in what it is that we provide here at the Mentoree, and I'm so glad to be able to come and speak to you about it.
I want to make sure that you have a chance to ask her questions, so I want to finish up quickly. What time are your students coming back?
I actually have a student teacher right now who is with someone, so I have probably another 15 minutes or so.
Okay, so I want to say this to you. Mentors are everywhere, and the connections that you make, they can be really long-term, beautiful connections, or they can be short connections, but those connections can lead to other connections. As you build the 5 competencies of professionalism, communication, knowledge, student engagement, planning and implementation, mentorship will be an essential part of all of that. So let me just recap my lessons for you, and then I can come back and talk about specific things. But what I was hoping that you all got from this experience was, the more you know yourself, the more you gain through mentorship. Questions are more important than answers. And as I said very clearly, mentors are everywhere. Christine mentors me all the time. I can't even tell you the ways that she has supported me through this process, but she and Terry and I meet every Wednesday, and often by text and often by phone, to continue evolving what it is that we do. On our leadership team, we also have one of my mentors who's very formal. She is the former Associate Director of Education for the York Region District School Board, and she's also supporting us in our strategic development, Karen. And the other person that you should know about is Bernadette Smith, who is on our leadership team, who is the principal of the elementary virtual school for York Region. Okay, now you've got Christine. Hopefully you'll have Terry. I'm going to stop sharing.
She's here, Noah.
Yay!
No,
Terry.
I'm here.
Hi, this is Dr. Terry Rubinoff. This is our team, minus 2 of our people, and hopefully, Terry, why don't you talk a little bit about your mentee, who is from Ottawa, and your relationship for the past few years.
My mentee is amazing, and she is a recent graduate from the University of Ottawa. She sought me out when she was in her first year in the program, and it was an amazing match because we've been together ever since then. And we meet regularly, generally once a week. And our relationship and the focus of our meetings has evolved over time based on her needs and where she's been in terms of her education and her career. So the first year we worked together weekly while she was in school, and then in the spring and summer we didn't meet, and then we reconnected again at the beginning of the second year. And then when things went into lockdown, we just decided that we still wanted to meet. And even though she wasn't doing regular placements, we used that time in a different way. And we decided to do what we called mini book studies together about things we wanted to learn. And so we could still continue to meet and engage in the learning. And now she's doing her first LTO in Ottawa. And so we continue to meet regularly and talk about how that is going. And, you know, I don't know, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here for the whole presentation. But as Noah always says, we all have something to teach, and we all have something to learn. And I hope that she learns from me, but I can tell you for sure that I learn a lot from her. And it's so great to, for me to be able to continue to have conversations with somebody who is at that early stage in her career and gives me insight into what that's all about right now. Because it's been a long time since I was at that early stage of my career. Although having said that, I am back in the classroom teaching from my basement. I'm currently on recess, so that's how I'm able to join you right now. So, you know, as our careers grow and evolve, things are always changing. And so having a mentor is very helpful at any stage. But yes, I could talk a lot about my relationship with my mentee, because we engage in lots of different learning opportunities together. We engage in Twitter chats together, all kinds of different learning opportunities. So we talk about what's going on day to day, but we also engage in other opportunities to expand our knowledge base and be able to share ideas together. And it's really, really fun.
I also want to say that this summer we were hired by the Merit Center to create a series of modules on mentorship. And we had Terry and Hoda on video to talk about some of the benefits of their mentorship experience. And even though we've been tracking it the whole time, it's really taking that deep dive into the impact of mentorship that allowed us to see just how powerful it is, even when you don't even, when you're in it, sometimes you need the chance to step out of it and reflect. So it helps you when you're in the zone of proximal development, and it helps you when you're not. There are so many different ways that mentorship can support you, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when they have to go. But in the meantime, do you have any questions for me or the team? I'm going to look at the chat while you guys are pontificating what your next query might be. But I feel so privileged to be in this place. I feel so grateful to Tracy for having us here so we can share with you what the Mentoree is. During our collaborative inquiry, we worked with Lakehead, and we have had many mentees from U Ottawa, but we look forward to continuing that relationship, and we can show you a little bit about the process for joining us. It's something you don't have to use right away. You might want to kick back and just say, okay, well, maybe I'm not ready. But as I believe, you should have a mentor in your pocket before you need it. So our website is thementoree.com. I have all that information on my last slide, but Christine's already on it. That's the beauty of a team right there. What do you mean by ZPD?
Zone of proximal development, is that what we're talking about?
That's what you're asking. I was thinking about professional development. Okay, sorry. The Zone of Proximal Development by Vygotsky talks about that optimal space where people learn the best. And the truth is, it's that intersection of being in the right place at the right time and being open to new ideas. And so we in our classrooms want to engage our students in experiences that hit that ZPD. I've never called it an acronym before, that zone of proximal development, so that they actually learn. And that's when I was talking before about impact. It's not what you're teaching, but what they're learning that really shares if you're actually teaching them anything. So
just to address one of the questions that's in the chat. So yes, you can absolutely join right now while you're still in school. If anything, we really encourage it, because I really feel as though I probably could have benefited from having a mentor when I was still at U Ottawa before I went into my practicum, because you want to have someone in your back pocket, you know, when things are kind of going awry or if you're feeling stuck. It's really great to have other people other than your mentor teacher to ask questions. So it's a really great way, you know, it's a really great time, I think, to find a mentor and build that relationship before you actually require that person.
I would say too, if I can add to that, you know, I think about opportunities for mentorship that I've had where, you know, just having that person with time set aside that you know they're available to you, so that as questions come up in your day-to-day practice, whether it's about what you're learning in your courses or in your placements, you know that you have somebody you can sort of save up those questions, and you have that person that you can talk to about them as you go. And I think that starting with a mentor while you're in the faculty really helps to support that transition as you move into your early career teaching experiences. So that's something to think about as well.
And then I'm just looking, while I'm still here, Nora, I'll try and take some of the pressure off of you.
So, questions in the chat.
Yeah, there's such great questions. So if you're looking for a mentor, what kind of mentor do you need now? So I really think that, you know, using the table that is the database that's on the website really allows you to kind of search through and see what you're interested in. And I think that, again, the reason why to build this relationship now is because this is the time where if there's something in particular that you're sort of like, that sounds intriguing, that sounds like fun, it'd be really interesting to learn about, like learning now from your mentor and building that relationship with them would be great. So that is the beauty of the table that is on the website, because it really gives you a rundown of what everyone is offering. And so someone had asked a question about are the people on the website looking for a mentee? Every person who is signed up as a mentor at the Mentoree is open to having a mentee. So any of the people where it says not connected, that's who you can reach out to. So the process will be is that you can look through that database, see what you're interested in. You're going to click on join the community, and you can join as a community member, a mentee, or as a mentor maybe. We have some Faculty of Ed students who have gone through the process and have in turn become mentors, which is really cool as well. But you're going to join the community and then look through the database, and then you can send an email to Noa and she can help you get connected with them.
Just to add to that, I mean, when Hoda, my mentee, reached out to me, she reached out to me specifically because she saw that I had a background in early years and special education. And so that was what she wanted to focus on, and that's why she chose me to connect with. And yes, Hoda from last year.
That's what I was saying, yes.
Yes, amazing, Hoda. As I said, we really do have a great talk together. But it's interesting too, because then when she moved into the second year and her placement was in a different division, and we were talking about other things, and I said to her, "Do you want to look for a different mentor?" Right? There's, because she was now had different questions, and we decided to stay together. But there are also options for movement, or even when Hoda and I are together, if there's something that she wants to know more about that might not be something that I have a lot of background in, we can reach out to someone else within the community. So once you're part of the community, there's really a lot of support. So the one-on-one relationship is amazing. And then from there, you can also reach out to other people within that community if you're looking for more information about a particular area. So there's lots of options because we have so much diversity within the community that really can support whatever questions.
And it's evolving all the time. Like, one of the neat things that happen with Conversations to Build Capacity is we realize that there are people that want mentorship experiences but don't want an exclusive one-to-one relationship. And that's where we created the Mentoree community. And then we added a Google Classroom so that we can communicate with our community. And we have a monthly newsletter, and we try to respond to people in saying who wants to do what, when. We try to respond to people by saying this seems to be a trend that's happening, or here are issues that are coming up. And that's where that closed loop happens through that On Ed Mentor show, is that I'll learn something and then create a show around it. And then we're like, well, no, there's still more questions. So let's throw it out to the community and see if somebody wants to have a conversation to build capacity on it. And even the conversation of whether we're going to have a circle conversation about it or a responsive presentation, it's such an interesting dialogue, and is truly responsive to what the issue is and what the needs of the community are as they're expressed. So for example, like I said about Jordan Rappaport, he's doing a circle conversation about meaningful math in the revised curriculum, but then he's doing a responsive presentation on this topic in February. And then he launches the second round of his MPACT just after that, so that it invites people to understand that this is unique. And what I was saying before about circle conversations is it's so unique because we limit it to 10 people. Ooh, hello? We limit it to 10 people, and people are like, well, I can't come. Can you just send me the deck? And so we are in like a retraining or an opening opportunity to say to people, this is a conversation at the table of conversation with no true authority per se, but people coming with their ideas, which is why I would love to build a circle conversation for Faculty of Education students and even just tailor it to you guys, because I want to know what the issues are. And this is an opportunity for us to hear and then be responsive to that. So we're constantly looking for opportunities. We always ground ourselves in our 8 C's and make sure that what we're doing is what we believe we should be doing. And that can be a great challenge, but it's also a beautiful touchstone of the work that we're doing. We only launched as the Mentoree 1 year ago, and I can't believe how much we've grown, even though we were a collaborative inquiry before that. Since we become the Mentoree, which is the term itself is a combination of the word mentor and mentee, so you can infer that reciprocity from our name. We also have that idea of community built into how we pronounce it. So the Mentoree is about mentorship, it's about community, and there's a place for everybody. Awesome. I strongly, awesome. Yes.
Sorry, Noa.
Yes.
So sorry to interrupt, but I actually have to get back to my class. So I'm so glad that I could join you all. And I look forward to connecting with you through the mentoring community. Hopefully that's something that you will choose to engage with. So thank you to everyone. And thank you, Noa and Christine.
Okay,
I'll see
awesome.
you guys later.
But what Tracy's saying is true, and that's where that mentorship mindset piece, what I was saying is your associate teacher can teach you so much. Sometimes it's a non-example, but most often it's an example of something. You might not want to replicate it, but it doesn't mean that there isn't something valuable for you to learn and take back to your practice. Christine, did you want to build at that before I show people where to find us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in my, career, I've had different mentors for different things. And I think that's what we're really talking about, is that having people in your back pocket, having people that you can reach out to for a variety of different learning goals that you may have for yourself. It can be super, super helpful to have a network of people that you can rely on. I know that I've relied many times on Noa's wonderful projects, which I don't know if she's mentioned, but they're so good. But I've relied on other people for other things when it comes to leadership development. So there's really something for everybody at the Mentoree. I just wanted to add one last thing also about the circle conversations. There's one quote that I loved from Rashmi again. And she said that circle conversations are not the place where we prove that if we are right or not. So that kind of just gives you a sense of like the quality of the conversations that we're having when we're having circle conversations. You're not going there to prove that you're right. You're going there to ask questions. You're going there to be inquisitive and to learn. And it's not about who is right or who is wrong. We've tackled a lot of really challenging conversation topics. And I think that it's been really nice because we've created somehow some safety in, the fact that we're all doing it virtually. All our cameras are on, but there's no sense of like, I don't want to say aggressiveness, but like it's a safe place where we can have real conversation about what it is that we need to be doing in our classrooms to be more effective. So I think it's really great. Just really quickly before I have to run. So about the mentorship experience, right now we only offer mentorship for the teaching profession. I know we would so love to be able to consult and talk about mentorship for other professions, but we're not there yet. But right now it's just about teaching. All right. So I'm going to run back to my grade ones. Thank you so much for having us. And I look forward to connecting with all of you too in the Google Classroom. All right. Have a great one, everyone.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm just going to screen share for one last time. Now that we've asked questions, I want you guys to know where to find us. So you can find me on Twitter and the Mentoree on Twitter at Noah's Bob's. Bob's coming from Building Outside the Box, not because I have a need to sound like a Southerner. At the Mentoree, which is also our handle on Instagram. We're growing our community on Instagram. TheMentoree.com is where you can find information on Ed Mentors, the show. You can find information on one-to-one mentorship and join the community. You can find information on conversations to build capacity. The next one you guys will be able to access is safety and learning, and that's happening on November 25th. We are really excited about this week's show because Dr. Jean Clinton is there among other guests. So she's a foremost authority and her book just came out. So I'm excited about that. Next week on Ed Mentors, we're talking about assessment in the virtual classroom. And I always post on at the Mentoree what's coming up on the Ed Mentor show. So there's lots of different opportunities. If you want to check out my work, you can find it at buildingoutsidetheblocks.com. That's where I post my blog, my projects, and you can also hear my podcast, the Personal Playlist Podcast, the other one that I do. Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing again and just make sure that I address all of your questions. I appreciate that. There are lots of good books on knowing yourself, but the truth is that we have in our mentee kit a series of questions. And in those series of questions, there are some really great free self-evaluations. You can do like a True Colors workshop, or you can do the 16 traits, which comes from the Myers-Briggs test. There are a whole bunch of easy but really informative personality tests that you can do to give yourself a sense of self. But the truth is that the answer doesn't lie in one book, but in a lifelong openness to turning self-ward, asking yourself hard questions, and knowing yourself. I'm still learning about who I am. The more I create culturally responsible, so there's a lot of really powerful things that can happen. But I would never say that there's one place that all the answers happen. Yeah, therapy can be a really good way. It is a lifelong journey. Oh, I appreciate that so much, Tammy. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Dave. It's cool. We're okay with a flood of applications. The truth is that a lot of people this year have been almost frozen by these realities. And what's been so amazing about our mentors is they're ready to help you pivot while they're learning to pivot. So, oh, I'm so glad. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Jasmine. I really appreciate it. I didn't get to see all the chat because I got kicked out. You have 5 minutes that you have left with me. If there's anything else that I can do to support you, hopefully Tracy and I will have some follow-up conversations, but I know that she has actually posted, I am looking for some support on On-Ed Mentors so I can do a better job, because tweeting while I'm listening doesn't always work. So I'm happy to have a conversation about that too. Tracy, is there anything you want to add before you play me out?
Noah, thank you. This was fantastic. You know, I'm still in my parking lot and still enjoying this. And I think the idea of the mentoring mindset is a way of going forward for all of our teacher candidates and our future teachers. I've been very fortunate to have thousands, I feel like thousands of mentors in my life, and I've learned so much from my own students. They've given me lots to think about. So this was really fantastic. Thank you all for participating today. I know Noah's got to go back to her classroom and do the other part of her job. So we'll say goodbye for now, and I will post the recording of this later on today. Have a great day.
Cheers, everybody. I didn't get to thank all of you, but thank you. Cheers. Okay, Tracy, do you want to follow up with me before the 26th? I don't know if
Mute.
Tracy.
Yeah,
Oh.
no, sorry, I was muted. No, I think we're fine. I think this is fantastic. It'll be great for our year twos, and we'll get after that. Maybe we can schedule some time where we can talk about further collaboration, further partnership, how that plays out. And I will resend.
I'd be happy to do that.
I'll resend the information with regards to the support for the show. I'll do that later on today as well.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And I've just tweaked it a little bit for the year twos.
Yeah. No, it was perfect. It was excellent and very appropriate, as our year ones will be heading off to practicum in 2 weeks. So, yay.
Awesome.
Talk to you later.
All
Bye.
right. Have a great day. Bye.